is Robert Picardo, the holographic doctor from Star Trek Voyager, and Commander Woolsey from Stargate Atlantis. You're listening to Mike the Birdman and the rest of the Twig crew on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
You might be impressed.
What exactly am I looking at?
We think you're looking at the event horizon of an artificially created wormhole through our space-time to a point tens, even hundreds of light years away. Sir.
Greetings and welcome aboard to yet another ThisWeekInGeek.net project. I am your gate master for this upcoming season of a new Twig project that has long been gestating. In fact, this has been in the works for over a year as of this recording date. I actually just saw this pop up in my Facebook memories. But for those of you that don't know, and maybe this is your first time, I certainly hope not, I am your host for this particular thrilling adventure. I am Mike the Birdman, a longtime gamer, game master, player from the former podcast known as These Warriors Are Terrible, now just known as Terrible Warriors. And this is our new actual play podcast here on Twig, available exclusively here. And we are going to be playing a different type of game than maybe we have done here on the show in previous years. But before I go any further, I have to welcome my fellow members to Phoenix Base here on the show. So I'm going to start with my person who is not the closest to me in physical proximity, but definitely closest in my heart. My good friend, my compatriot, my brother in arms, the guy who's held my hand at very unusual times.
Alex, the producer.
We'll never tell anybody why.
Except that it was emotional support for very important things.
It was.
But yes, I mean, this is technically, it's not Cambridge Chronicles Season 2, which went down in flames. It's also not technically Cambridge Chronicles Season 3. It's sort of
its own thing.
But a little bit of it.
Yeah, so it's different, but I'll explain that once I introduce who we're talking with. And then out from the wilds of Saskatchewan, we are joined with
JT from Saskatoon. Oh dear God, I don't even want to know what you were holding on him, Alex.
Alex has seen things that no man ever should, but he's a good guy. So for those of you that don't know, JT is one of the co-hosts from Twig Sunday Funnies. The most recent episode we did was on Marvel Zombies. You should have heard that by now. So look for that at some point on the website. So yeah, JT is joining us. First time ever role-playing with JT, so this should be interesting.
Yeah, I haven't role-played since my regular Saturday group fell apart in the earlier part of this year, so it's that monkey on my back's getting a little antsy.
Well, it'll be good to have you. And then longtime Twig fan who then became a contributor and then just became a very dear friend in the last couple of years. The guy, I knew him as Snorlock Shaman for many, many years. He hasn't used that handle in years. But it's Ken from, what's your podcast called again? Pimp It Out Here.
It's This Anime Podcast, thisanimepodcast.com, at This Anime on Twitter.
So yeah, Ken has been a longtime fan. He's just become a good friend over the last couple of years.
And part of the historic failed second season of Cambridge Chronicles, Shadowrun.
Oh yeah, when we tried to get that off the ground. Holy shit, memories. And then a person who is the closest to me in physical proximity and the one who's actually known me the longest. You might have heard his voice way back in 2010, 2011. He's been on the show before. I give you, without any further ado, the Mountain Man of Inverness.
Howdly doodly, neighborino.
Yes, that is Liam Larson. Me and Liam have known each other since high school. And it's been an adventure, to say the very least.
Indeed.
We often exchange spicy cats, where he'll bring his cat Mim over. He'll hiss at you, then ask for pets and cookies, and generally be a pain in the ass.
Or just hiss at you and be terrified of you, in my case. The one time you picked him up and tried to put him on me, he looked like he was about to die.
Just very displeased.
He's a very mercurial cat.
So, for all of you that are gathered here today, we did kind of a preview of this several months ago, and the idea has been kind of gestating because we've been waiting for the company to release the books physically and digitally, and that happened after Gen Con of this year, and that's Wyvern Gaming's Stargate SG-1. Now, this is obviously based upon the MGM, now Amazon-owned, franchise, which began in the 1990s with the movie, had a very long-running TV series with like several spin-offs with Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe.
17 seasons of shows if you don't count the cartoon.
Yeah, oh, I forgot about the cartoon. So where
underappreciated gem, that cartoon.
So where our story or our game kind of picks up is the book's setting sets this in season 6. The book presumes season 6, episode 9, but it does also say, I actually read a little bit further today, consider the book up to the end of season 6 when everything goes down. Now, I actually haven't seen that far in the show, but that's what I'm doing this past week. And I have ideas for the adventures for our players. So everything that has happened up until this point is canonical. We've had the confrontations with other Guald system lords. I'm trying to remember the name of the one guy. Help me out here.
It's basically pre
Anubis.
Or
Anubis shows up.
He shows up. It's pre-expansion of the universe and lore beyond what you know already, and pre-spinoff. So, because season 6 is kind of the finding their footing season when they lost a cast member, and they had just moved to. I think that's either the last season on the network, or it's when they moved to Sci-Fi and they weren't sure if they were even going to get renewed for more seasons. I think that was the beginning of them being unsure because their original order was for 5 seasons on Showtime. So it's the forgettable season, I think, but it's a good place to put it in there because not a ton of lore crazy stuff happens till the end of the season.
Yeah, so where we pick up, we've defeated one of the big bads that was in the first 5 seasons. Now there's a new system lord, Anubis. There's a system lord civil war going on, and the races of the Milky Way have decided, you know what, enough's enough. And they're taking the fight to the Guald. And that's where our characters come in. So Phoenix Base has been established on an off-world site that is highly classified, only known to members of Stargate Command on Earth. But for the sake of this campaign, I haven't named the planet yet, but it's going to be kind of not quite a water world and not quite a swamp world. There are places on the planet that do have significant terrestrial land, like rock formations and whatnot, because Phoenix Base is built into the side of a mountain, very similar to Stargate Command on Earth. And there's a reason for that, which hopefully you guys may discover during your adventures. So as it stands, Stargate Phoenix Base is under the command of General P.K. Lawyer. He was appointed by the United States government to oversee this new base. He's been hand-selected by General Hammond on Earth as someone who can be trusted with establishing a new off-world command for Stargate operations. And because things have become different and the world political theater has changed, Stargate Command on Phoenix Base is no longer purely U.S. military. They've opened it up to other branches of world governments that are aware of the Stargate kind of program. Some of them have known by, oh, we found something weird, and other people have sort of said, hey, we know what you're doing. You either let us in or this goes to CNN primetime on Monday morning, so to speak. So you might have people from the British government, Canadian, could be anywhere, could be here. And that means Phoenix Base is in a more unique position to reach out to other races, because this was essentially a diplomatic thing that was established to work cooperatively with people on Earth, but also expand into the galaxy to extend the reach of the Tauri, which is us, but also talk to other members of the Tok'ra, the Nox, find more Jaffa that have maybe said, no, I'm not going to follow these false gods anymore. And PK Lawyer has been building the team over the last 6 months. So because we are following Stargate timeline, Alex, this is a question I'm going to pose to you. What year would this technically take place in?
2002. Actually, wait.
2003, I think?
I think it's 2006.
I was going to say, like, are you talking production year, or are we talking... I think, because it doesn't take place... I think Stargate is always was it about a year ahead of real time?
I think so, something like that. From what
because
I read,
the show started in 97, and they don't really do like a time jump except for random episodes. But I believe, like, it all depends on when the original movie takes place, and I believe it took place in like the
94?
exact. Yeah, but I believe. I'm drawing a blank. Does anybody else remember in Children of the Gods, the first episode, how many years has it been since they went through the gate?
I think they say 2. I want to say 2.
Okay,
yeah.
so then it's supposed to be real time. So, well, even though the movie was 94, the show takes place and starts in 97. It's supposed to be 96 going to 97. So let's say it's modern day. So that would mean that it would be
03, 04?
2003. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just be safe.
So certain events that have taken place in the real world have happened. I think the president of the United States at this time, I think, is George Bush, if I'm not mistaken.
They use a fake president in the show.
Okay. So yeah, they'll be our presidential stand-in who will virtually play no effort, because I don't want to get into the depths of U.S. politics.
I'll tell you right now,
suck.
It's a conservative white guy that's in charge, but he's not a fanatical conservative. He's a fiscally conservative, but like wants to fund the
They're
program.
always looking for reasons to shut it down.
Because it's, well, no, actually the president isn't. That's the big
You're
thing.
Thinking of Ronnie Cox, Mike.
Yeah, that's who I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, the president in this is actually on really good terms with the team. He sees the value in it, but has to placate to the rest of his party. So he's a conservative moderate.
Okay. So we do have a command structure in place. And because we have a unique perspective on this, you might be wondering, well, what the hell am I talking about? Liam here is former military in real life. So he was serving in and around this time in real life. So we're bringing some interesting perspective to this game, maybe to add a little bit of a layer of authenticity to things, because Liam is my go-to gun guy in real life. In fact, many a night when we stay up late watching stupid things, it often ends up into looking at who's the armorer for this movie.
Yep, it's a fun rabbit hole to go down.
So we will be using as much accurate technology as possible. However, though, if you're looking at the episode's description for this particular show, this is called Stargate TWIG. And you might just think, oh, well, that's what the show's called. Well, yes and no. TWIG stands for Tactical Weapons Integration Group. So part of Phoenix Base's secondary objective, which is only known to a few people really, is most off-world technology that is brought back from Stargate SG-1 and its 9 teams on Earth. Sometimes some of that technology gets brought here. It may be too dangerous to be kept on Earth. It may be completely experimental, and we don't know if it's going to blow up in somebody's face. So our group here is one of the many groups tasked at Phoenix Base to, hey, here's some new toys. Go out and test it. You're still going to perform standard diplomatic missions. But if things go south, here's something a little more interesting, say, than your typical Zat gun. We may have alien engineers from other kind of races that are helping us reverse engineer Gwald technology. There may be other pieces of tech that we have found across the galaxy that will assist in the fight against the Gwald. However, though, a lot of this is experimental and a lot of it is one of a kind, so don't drop the goddamn thing.
I'm calling dibs on the space shotgun.
It's pretty much like a mixture of, it's not Area 51, but it's like off-site Fort Knox.
Yeah, basically. This is
and
where
Fort
a
Knox
lot of
meets the Pentagon.
So this is where a lot of the really cool experimental tech does come. And our base is also unique in the regards that our Stargate is a little bit different than some other people, because in Stargate SG-1, you don't see a lot of vehicles going through. And here, another thing, because we're establishing diplomatic relations with a lot of these new species, sometimes PK Lawyer will ask envoys, can we establish a forward operating base on your planet? Will you allow us to establish an embassy with a small military presence? And a lot of races are saying, you know what, having the Tauri here isn't the worst thing in the world. So this base has the capability to deploy rapidly across the Milky Way with more advanced weaponry and vehicles than you would have seen in the show. One, because I think it's really interesting, and me and Liam actually spent time measuring the gate and looking at vehicles that were period appropriate.
Basically, you're not going to be driving like an old Hummer through there. You're going to be driving a smaller all-terrain vehicle through.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so,
mini tanks and armored scout cars.
So
basically like single-seater tanks.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
the Ferret Scout car is a really good example, because it's basically a one-man souped-up little hot rod armored thing.
And something they probably didn't have when they were making the original show was like not ATVs, but like Argos and that sort of stuff. Like, I'm assuming stuff that we can store a lot of tech in, but
exactly,
because it's always either in the original show it's motorcycles or the Malf.
ATV, or the Malf, So that is some of the background on the game so far. So it is going to be New Year's Eve, 2003, when the game starts. You will have come from your respective worlds. You've received a mission brief from your ambassador, or you've been invited by a Tauri envoy to come to your world and invites you to participate in Phoenix Base. In return for your service, they will do whatever they can to free your people. They will give you whatever technology will help make your life easier should you require anything. And you can visit Earth, but you do have to go through a chain of requests that would eventually end with General Hammond saying yes or no.
I'm pretty sure some of us probably can't visit Earth.
yeah. There's more than a few of you who probably shouldn't go marching around the base.
It would be like
the Unas want to go to Popeye's Chicken.
It would be like it would be a Murray sort of situation where I don't even know if a hat would help.
So I mean, just not my character's name is like, Hendrix, why aren't you going back to Earth? Well, you remember that thing with the cream pie in General Hammond's car? Yeah, I'm staying away.
So with all this in mind, we're going to go around the table and meet the rest of Stargate TWIG Tactical Weapons Integration Group. We're going to start with Alex right now. Who is your character? What are their race? Who are they?
Okay, so I was puzzled initially because I was thinking we went sort of blind. We weren't really saying what characters we were making ahead of time, which is actually kind of interesting because sometimes and traditionally on these sorts of shows, you either wanted it, or when we were doing with other people, you'd put together your character list and you'd be like, oh no, could somebody play something else, because you wanted to sort of give a variety of each character. We're not going to be that sort of play group where one of every character class is covered because we got to have a balanced team. So I went, you know what, I'm going to do something I've not really ever done, and I'll play a medic. And then, because I was like, well, it would be interesting if more than one person plays a medic. I'm not sure if that happened. Probably not. But it would be funny if it turned out that it was like a whole team of like support characters. But I was like, okay, I'm playing a medic. Now, traditionally, you'd be like, okay, that's a human. No. So I decided to go with an UNAS medic, something you would never expect.
Now, for those of our listeners who aren't totally familiar with a lot of the Stargate races, what is an UNAS?
Well, with the UNAS, they were the original hosts for the Gould. And I think in the show they refer to them as first ones or something.
Yeah.
First ones, yeah.
Yeah. And they were giant lizard people. Think like a Gorn with better makeup.
Or Killer Croc from Batman.
Killer Croc meets the Gorn. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what they are. And they heal fast, really strong. They can actually talk, which was surprising because people thought they were like mindless without the Gould themselves. But I went, okay, let's do that's a little against type. It's not so ridiculous, because my thinking behind it was, you're like, oh, how is he going to use medical tools and all that? Well, you might want a field medic that is resilient enough, like a tank, that can walk out, pick somebody off out of the field while there's live fire going on, and carry them back to base slowly without worrying about getting their head shot off themselves.
I kind of picture like a Predator, where they have enough field medicine to keep people alive. They're tough as hell. And because, as far as I understand, the UNAS are a tribal culture, maybe you're a medicine man who has a higher calling.
Yeah, and my thought was, okay, I can also do things like, I don't know, reset a bone or lift. Like, I won't necessarily be encumbered by weight by lifting somebody and moving them as much as a smaller medic would.
Exactly. So you have the advantage physically.
Yeah. So my character's name, I just randomly typed a bunch of stuff because it's going to be inconsequential, and you'll see why. So the character's name I named Ba Ugra Bur because it's going to be some random in their own dialect. I don't think there was ever a language established in the show, so I can make up my own. But because name starts with B and I'm a medic, everybody just calls me Dr. Bob. to my own, like, it was something that was begrudgingly accepted as, because I realized that no humans could understand my name. So somebody's Dr. Bob. Well, Dr. Bob will patch you up, and then out of the corner is just this big hulking lizard man walks out, and he's like, "What's the problem?"
See, I imagine something like Hank McCoy X when he comes in, white lab coat, glasses perched on his face, and they're just watching the soldier in front of him silently shit himself.
What I pictured in my head was, even though this isn't my actual backstory, but I pictured SG-1 being pinned down, all this crazy stuff happening, and let's say Daniel Jackson's hurt, and I come out, I'll be like, I can help. He'd be like, "What's your name?" The UNAS first they're terrified of me, and then I could just picture O'Neill going, "What's your name? What? Yeah, you're Dr. Bob now," and then just going with that, and then going back to SG Command, and then the UNAS character walks through the Stargate with them, and they're all got their guns pointed. Stop! That's Dr. Bob, and just having everybody at command just staring like, what? You're like, it's Dr. Bob.
Please tell me you have a "Hello, my name is" thing on your uniform,
Bob.
please.
Well, I was going to say, you know how everybody gets their jackets? Well, I can only wear light. Because I'm a medic, even though I'm a giant hulking thing, I can only wear light armor. So that would be leather in that. But I've got basically my vest, or what would be the equivalent of a tack vest like you guys, and it just says Dr. Bob on the Velcro name tag.
I love it.
Dr. Bob. So my the character, there's two different types of Unas you can play, and I chose the Unchained Unas. That's somebody who had been enslaved or had a Gould in them at one point. And the difference between the two is the main Unas gets a sort of strength resiliency check, whereas the Unchained, you get a bonus to your charisma for being able to, people underestimate you, so you're more likely to win certain roles. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. As well as the origin / background. I picked Unas Alpha because I know there's a bunch. It was interesting. There's 3 different categories, right, you can pick from. And I picked ones that I think would complement my character pretty well. So Unas Alpha is, I'm just going to pull up the exact wording for this. Unas Alpha, racial origins. You were once an alpha of a clan, but either left to join the Phoenix site or failed to protect them. Among the Unas, you are considered a natural leader, and many Unas look to you for guidance. One of your sort of extra abilities or passive abilities there is one's permission. Other friendly Unas, so anybody else in the party that's an Unas, may call upon your presence or to gain advantage in a role. Basically, a team up because you're trusted amongst that clan. And the idea being that there's so few Unas, I guess that they'll sort of bond together that way. And my other background that I gave was origin planet was a rainforest planet. And that what that does is that gives me certain advantages. It's my biome origin specifically. It gives me Tropics Adept, meaning I don't receive a disadvantage on ability checks caused by rain or fog, which could be useful.
So you're basically right at home at Phoenix Base because it's kind of
I should say I had no prior knowledge of where you set Phoenix Base or what planet or anything, so it's just a happy coincidence that I figured it might come in handy because everybody seems to be either desert planet or like regular forest planet because everything looks like BC.
Let's say everywhere's Vancouver.
Yeah, but I was like, this would be a little different. It might fit in. The only thing I hadn't worked out is like my exact origin of how I came to be with Phoenix. But how about we sort of adapt the little bit instead of SG-1, instead of O'Neill finding me, let's go with SG, I don't know, 2 or 3, one of the other exploration teams. They were on a planet which we can have it be maybe uncharted. It was a new planet they were going to. And they were ambushed by Gould. And I came out. They assumed that I was a bad guy because, Unas. And they were going to attack me. But then they saw that I just attacked all of the Jaffa that were under the Gould's command. And then picked up one of their injured and started applying him first aid. And they're like, "What? Who are you?" And then eventually got invited into to see them because they, first of all, had not seen very many Unas to begin with, and just the fact that it was a rare opportunity to see an intelligent Unas that was not traditionally just a mindless, violent creature.
I like it. This is pretty good. So we have Dr. Bob, the Unas medic.
Yes, and my just to give some context, I have 2 weapons. I have a clock blade, which is an Unas. It's basically a knife that fits in an Unas's hand because most people's knives would be like a toothpick. And then I also have the Mossberg shotgun because it's one of the only standard issue. A shotgun is something that the medics can be adept with, but it's also one of the only weapons that I could naturally hold. But for me, it would be held pretty much like a pistol because of the size of the character.
Jesus,
so where everybody else is issued like a 1911 or like a whatever hand pistol, that's my standard issue. I don't carry other larger firearms because to me the shotgun's enough.
That's amazing. I'm actually kind of liking how this is coming together.
And like I said, I have leather armor, but it's light armor. It's basically just to hold some of my supplies as well as give basic protection. And the only other thing that I added as an item that is outside of my med kit and stuff is an Unas necklace. It doesn't add any weight or encumbrance or anything, but an Unas necklace is traditionally worn by either Unas that are afraid of it or have been hosts. And wearing it around your neck makes it so that it's a lot harder for a ghoul to enter the body. And it's pretty standard amongst most Unas that come from a planet that, has ghouls. And that's sort of my basic background. Oh, yeah, that. And in my, I was able to put together my base kit. I got a base kit, which is the standard stuff everybody has. I got a med kit because that's what's part of my class I can have. And you're allowed to pick sort of one extra item as the medic, or 2 items, sorry. I have an emergency viral response kit, which it should help if there's a pathogen, but it's like a one-use item, then I got to refill it sort of thing. And the other thing I have is duct tape, because that was apparently an option. And I thought, who needs Band-Aids? And think about an Unas with their big-ass hands trying to apply a little Band-Aid, peeling off the little paper pieces. It makes a lot more sense to have Gorilla Tape.
It really does. Like, honestly, it makes sense. And I think in field medic things in the battlefield, whatever holds you together for 20 minutes is good enough.
And I'm thinking Unas pulls it out and can wrap it tight. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just anything that I could do quickly, like the biggest brute that you'd ever think of. I would look like the friggin' monster, but in reality, I'm the guy that's patching up everybody.
I love it.
But if you get close, you're going to get a mouthful of buckshot.
All right, so we have Dr. Bob, the Unas medic, and now we're going to move on to JT from Saskatoon. And tell me about your character.
Well, first of all, I got to say, I'm a child when it comes to naming characters in RPG games, so I almost chose a Jaffa, and I was going to name him Bofa. Please tell me somebody gets that joke. Yeah. Okay, it was going to be Bofa D's.
Bofa D's nuts. Okay.
I am better than that. I am choosing to be better than that. I'm playing a plain vanilla human, a soldier in the Stargate command structure. And I named him after one of my favorite comic book characters with ties to Egypt, and he is named for Hawkman, so his name is Carter Hall.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of chose to go with a human soldier. Honestly, this is probably 3rd or 4th year into my RPG playing life. Like I'm way late bloomer when it comes to this sort of thing. And I went with the soldier because I've always kind of been not the background player, but I find pleasure, or whatever the right sounds dirty. I enjoy being a supportive kind of person. So with soldier, like, I'm working towards the common cause of, making peace throughout the universe, fighting the Goa'uld threat, bringing all the cool shiny things back to Phoenix Base so we can test it. It's just my personality kind of in life. So I chose to go with that. My origin, the biome I went with is the urban, pack buildings, no stranger to problem solving, lets me use my charisma mod instead of my wisdom when making culture skill checks. And the second part of that, I went with entertainer, because as Mike and Alex know, I've got the gift of gab. I like putting a smile on people's faces. I like being a chatty Kathy, meeting new people, and I think that's something that definitely
you're a party city person versus a country quiet person.
Yeah. Like not I don't want to be an ambassador, because I'll probably scratch my ear, and that's a cultural insult to some alien species out there, and the next thing I know we're the first galactic war, because that's the way my luck rolls in life. I chose not to tempt fate. And I just wanted to make a character, at least in this first game with Twig, that is as much make it as close to me as possible, and just I want to have fun with this, which is another reason why I went with entertainer, because then I can use my strengths instead of my weaknesses.
Okay, so how did Carter Hall get involved with the program? How was he approached? What do you see his role within the kind of structure?
Well, like Alex, I haven't 100% fleshed out his backstory, but Carter, hails from the great state of North Dakota. He honestly just chose to serve. Like, he got into the military. I forget, in the lore of Stargate, is it just everyone's from the Air Force, or did they bring guys over from like the Marines and such?
It's Air Force controlled, but I believe if you look up the SG teams, SG-25 is an Army combat unit. There's covert ops. There's Marine Corps units. There's not a ton of
Navy.
I think there's a Green Beret unit.
Mm-hmm. And Delta Force, I think.
There's just not there as far as regular Army. I think it's just SG-25 that they've shown, but there are more. I know that by the time it's farther ahead in the series in Atlantis, there are more. Like the beginning of Atlantis, which is outside of the purview of this particularly, it's the regular Army, I believe, that is trying to secure that site.
I think there's Marines in there too, so I probably make him like he joined up with the regular Army and the Marines, and just worked hard at being all that he could be. It
could have been selected as a test program, right? Because not everybody has to be a pilot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just he's always willing to try out the new C4, the new shotties, which, like I said, I call dibs on the first space shotgun we come across, because he wants to make stuff go boom on a certain level. And he's just a solid, proven himself, reliable, dependable. I figure you need people like that in any sort of organization, which isn't to say, as part of the game, from what I remember reading over the book, the characters can grow and diversify their skills. So
I think once we get to, was it level 5? You can then sort of I could be a medic that also starts studying astrophysics or something if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
So I think in the future, maybe steer him towards weapons engineer or something like that. And as far as gear goes, like Alex was saying, I've got the basic, the flak vest that you would often see SG-1 fitted with. Got the camo kit that I get because of my class, and the base kit, explosives. The weapons, on my character sheet, I just put in the P90 and the Beretta, although I'm not sure what weapons beyond the book we have access to. So I might want to change that.
Well, I know the book basically says we have access to anything that's available on planet Earth
at that time.
At that time. Yeah, so 2003.
I'm pretty sure that the gun that I was thinking, I think it was the G60, something that started in the late 90s or the early aughts. I'd have to double check that for the timeline. It's I used to play Tom Clancy's The Division a lot, and it was the one weapon in the game that I kept coming back.
Do you mean a G36?
G36? Yeah, it's got to be the G36 he's talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's completely. Yeah, no, I'd say that'd definitely be something that they could get their hands on. And I know the big 100-round C-Mags, they use them in the episode with the UNAS in it, Shaka. I was watching that the other night and I saw those.
Mm-hmm. So, probably just have to get the stats for that and put in my page. But yeah, it's I'm definitely looking forward to this. Maybe work towards being the comic relief of the team.
All right.
I think everybody's going to be comic relief. This is a Stargate.
Well, yeah.
I was going to say, yeah.
But
this is also us.
The Hudson to our bug hunt.
I'm a friggin' dragon doctor.
Yeah. And I would say that for a definite character, not flaw, but a quirk, is he's got a big old crush on Samantha Carter.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a big old crush on Dr. Bob, but I'm going, Dr.
might
Bob
look
is
at
not
Dr. Bob.
necessarily opposed.
He might call him Dr. Godzilla under his breath, but
yeah,
not hearing a no.
I was going to say, Dr. Bob's been hearing he's been referred to as Dr. Sexy Bob a few times, and he can't figure out who's saying it, but he's not opposed.
He just goes up to Carter. Explain to me why that soldier called me daddy. Oh, you don't want to know, Doc.
It's going to be a very Mass Effect situation where you have to meet with the doctor and figure out how it's going to work.
Yeah, but no, that's the one character quirk that I came up with him is, maybe in passing a couple of times he's met, a couple of members of SG-1, like had like a conversation or two with Dr. Jackson, just laid eyes on Samantha Carter, and he's like, yes.
It would be really funny if it's not actually Samantha Carter, it's another...
It's a replicator?
No, it's another person altogether, and somebody just... You're like, who's that? Somebody doesn't even look up. They're like, that's Carter, and it's not Carter. It's like somebody that works in like psyops or something.
Yeah, or general lawyer here is like, hey, Carter's here. It's like, when Samantha get to the base?
All right, so that works. So we have JT. So I'm gonna say, as part of your selection process, you were nominated by one of your commanding officers you said you were Army, right?
Well, Army or Marines.
Okay.
One of the two. I'll figure that as I tighten up the backstory.
Can I make a quick suggestion?
Sure.
Yeah.
How about you were selected, but not like you didn't know you were even applying, and you just took part in a inter-military divisional, like Navy versus Air Force, with not war games, but like a game, basically a showcase. I don't know what you would call it. You know how they do like war games between the different things, and you basically, not an obstacle course, you won a bunch of events, and you're supposed to get like a little certificate, and it's for charity and all this, but in reality the government was assessing who would be the next best members for the next SG team.
You had that algorithm worked out like that.
Yeah, and they're like this guy really, but he's not even Air Force. Like, it doesn't matter
because
he beat the Air Force people.
Yeah, well, the initial planning for Carter is I was going to make him Canadian, and I was going to have him be like a member of Joint Task Force 2, but I figured that was overreaching for me for a little bit, and I think that in the end might have brought on a little more problems for me, just gameplay and backstory wise.
Or how about, do you want your character to be Canadian?
That's fine with us.
A Canadian Army member who took part in a games between the U.S. and Canada and beat the U.S. team.
Yeah, I could do that.
And they pull in because Canada being part of, they've already revealed to the G8 leaders essentially, and they want, like, on paper they just want some Canadian representation because Russia's got their own teams, all this, so they pulled whoever was best between those fun drills, war games, and they pull you in because you show up, you're being reassigned, and you're like, where to the American Air Force, you're like, that can't happen. Or they tell you that you're going to be on loan to do some training, and then they actually send you to the American Air Force. You're like, what? But I'm Canadian General Army.
Yeah, well, that works. It's like, and I think at this point in the show, at least late season 5 or beginning of season 6, we do run into McKay before Atlantis.
He's brought in, I think, in season 6, as is his sister. It's because of his sister. I can't remember. They're brought in to consult on something that's found. I think it's a relic of some sort. Doesn't make any sense. And he's pulled in by CSIS, I think, and he's confused as to why he's being called in.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's maybe he met McKay in Panzer. If he ever runs into McKay, hey, fellow Canuck, and he's like, oh God, it's him.
I love it.
No, I can work the Canadian military on loan. That's actually, I didn't even think about that. So
because it is open. It's open to anybody that's part of their allied network, right? So you could do that.
Yeah, all right,
I'm cool with that.
So we will explore Carter's background a little bit further when we actually get into actual gameplay. So moving to the great state of New Jersey, let's welcome Ken. So Ken, tell me about your character, who they are, where they come from, and I understand you put a little bit more work into this than I was suspecting you would.
Yes. This character has literally been just jesting in my brain for quite literally since we recorded 0, which was in January.
And if I could get you to speak up a little bit, Ken.
Okay, give me 1 sec.
There we
go.
That's
there
good.
we go. Sorry about that. But yeah, this has been kind of gestating in my brain for almost the whole year. This character's name is Saul Vakmir, or just Saul, and that is Sarrl. Saul is not a traditional Stargate alien. He's in fact a completely new alien that I created just for this, or sort of based off of a book that I read, but close enough. And I'm just going to read the bio that I wrote up. Born of the fearsome jackals of the sea, the Carnum, Saul was raised as a brilliant tactician, but ultimately suffered defeat at the superior might of the System Lords. His people enslaved, it was only through his liberation, courtesy of the SGC, that Saul found new purpose and sought to repay his debts to those who helped him free some of his people. Many of them, including his only daughter, Aria, were shipped off-world and transplanted by the System Lords in various positions, from concubines of the Lords to tools to further their reach on the galaxy. Saul consistently likes to chronicle his journey in his notebook every night before sleep, always hoping at least to see his daughter one last time. And so, essentially, Saul is a career soldier of his people. He's, I kind of, based it off the Unas in just to help build the character in the game. And since, his planet is mostly oceans, he is of an oceanic descent. He is an oceanic alpha. Obviously, he's a brilliant tactician. Essentially, he's sort of the pseudo leader of this team, as we kind of established. And he's just very trusting of his group. And like, look, you're here for a reason. You got chosen for a reason, and you do your job. I do mine, and we're simpatico on that. He is essentially what the Carnum are think jackal men, kind of like a mix between like Beast from Beauty and the Beast, a little more lean though, in design. So he's just like a 6 foot tall, like Beast man.
Okay.
You mean like Jackalman from Thundercats?
I was just going to say Thundercat mutants.
Yeah, Jackalman from Thundercats is a pretty good comparison.
Interesting.
And he just has like this deep, like burgundy reddish fur to him. And yeah, he's just a no nonsense kind of soldier type character. But he, of course, has that yearning to finally find his daughter, who's somewhere out in the Milky Way galaxy, and kind of just reunite with her. That's his one goal.
Okay.
Overall, like in terms of what he does, he's mostly up in your face kind of person. He will shoot a gun, but he doesn't necessarily enjoy shooting guns. He will beat you with his bloody hands.
Okay, so he's a kind of melee fighter.
He is definitely a melee fighter.
So we got a rogue, we got a soldier, I guess a warrior, we got a cleric, and I guess we just need something else.
A sorcerer of some kind. All right. So
that's a cool background, man.
Yeah, I really like that. So, how I'm going to say you got introduced to Stargate Phoenix Site is the Stargate team discovered your people not long after the attack, and you have begun cooperating with them. It's you and probably 5 other members of your species are stationed on Phoenix Site. You are recognized, as you mentioned, as the Alpha. However, there is one person who's sort of more diplomatic relations, but people tend to defer to you because you have a lot more to gain because you are looking for your daughter. PK Lawyer has assigned the TWIG Tactical Weapons Group to you because I understand you wanted to be the leader of the group, and he is trusting you because much like Dr. Jackson was looking for his for Scaro was his name? Scar?
Yes.
Sheree.
And at beginning Skara,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a lot in common with people he's worked with, and he knows that drive can make a good leader.
Did you just basically make a Liam Neeson character? I have a very specific set of skills. I will find you.
Jackal Man will find you and rip your fucking face off. I
didn't think of it that way, but kinda.
So we got Dr. Bob and Liam Neeson and the comedy character.
And we got like that mixed with like I'm almost picturing JT's character as being like a mid-90s, I don't know, like action star, but action comedy star. More comedy than action.
Fucking MacGruber is who I picture.
Well, not...
No, I'm picturing like Schneider from Dread.
No. You can eat all the dicks, sir. You can eat all the dicks. If I were to cast myself, I would cast as I can't remember the actor's name. It's the guy that played Grady in Tremors 2 Aftershocks.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
I wanted Rob Schneider to fight beside Jackal Man.
No, Rob Schneider could be a system lord, okay?
Well, if you wanted to be, if you were going full comedy, we would have had to cast you. Your character would have been Rob Schneider specifically in Surf Ninjas. Where you think you're the leader because you're the human, even though you're not the leader, and the Jackal is the leader, but you're like, see, and you're like trying to use your mind to like blow things up, but it doesn't work.
Rob, the system lord comes out, and now Lord Schneider, Tauri, making life difficult.
I love it.
It could have been so much worse. Oh my god, that just made me think. So, you know what? You made me think of Pauly Shore, and I'm like, please don't have Pauly Shore in our team. But no, you're more like Brendan Fraser in The Mummy.
Yeah.
No, I'm Brendan Fraser in the 90s.
Yeah, you're 90s Brendan Fraser. There we go.
Specifically, Airheads.
Well, Airheads, somewhere between Airheads and The Mummy. But anyway, back to Ken.
Okay. But yeah, so good times. All right, so we have that established, and then we come to the final member of the Stargate SG-1 team. Liam, explain who you are.
Well, I kind of went the energy efficient route, and I went with one of the pre-made characters. So I'm going to be playing Oringo, the Unas Scout.
Neat. So I can actually use my skill.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about that.
Okay, so are you going to go with Oringo's background, or are you going to kind of dress it up in any way, or
I want to flesh it out a little bit. Like the background they give is simply that how do they put it? He obtained a vital piece of logistical information that assisted the Tauri, and eventually that led to several planets being freed. But it's kind of very vague. And it just says he helped his people rise up against the system lords, but it doesn't say specifically, what part it was. But because he's a scout and he has these skills and he was able to gain this intelligence, I would like to think he was maybe like a gamekeeper or something like that.
So you're like
a huntsmaster.
You're like a ranger.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have an idea. I've just made it up on the spot. Let me know if you want it. So
Those are the best kind.
So Oringo has discovered something before he joined Stargate Command, and it was several distressing reports and several pieces of salvaged technology. So what had happened is, on your planet specifically, where you were freed and first met up with Stargate, one of the Phoenix-based teams, you had led them to a crashed pyramid ship. And the reason this is not just a random accident, maybe something happened, is all the Jaffa on board had all their abdominal pouches ripped out and burned. And the logo, or what's the thing on their foreheads called?
Their insignia.
Their insignia has been removed forcibly, usually by a knife or something similar.
So you've got like a Jack the Ripper meets aliens situation.
Yeah, so you discovered this pyramid ship that was crashed on your planet, and while you were asked formally to join Phoenix base as like, hey, you led this to us, you have been assigned occasionally to help people out as a scout, as you're essentially like a ranger. This is not the first pyramid ship you've come across. You've also come across several battles where they were decidedly one-sided, where Jaffa have been utterly slaughtered by weapons you've never seen before.
Is it the same MO with like their insignia being like cut off their head?
Yes. And the only thing you've ever found that was a clue is you found a strange new type of Jaffa that doesn't have an insignia on their forehead. They still have a guald, but instead of the traditional kind of bird armor that you typically see from the show, you've come across a person who looks like a tiger.
Tiger armor.
Yeah, so that's something that you have found.
I'm picturing the lion sort of tiger armor from Gladiator when he fights the Sven Thorsson's character with the tigers.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good analogy to it. Now, you have come across this corpse once, and you have intercepted deep space communications, and there's a word, but you can't quite understand all of it because it's definitely an Earth word, and you may have heard the word Charmunda. And that's all you've ever been able to grasp. And you've been across probably 30 planets, all the same MO. You've come across one dead tiger guard the entire time.
This is interesting. So we've got a party we don't have any diplomats directly. So I guess that would make sense for being a tactical group, right?
Yep.
We would call somebody in. So I'm assuming if we have to have any major things, that's an NPC you're putting in for us. Hopefully.
Yes, you will have.
I mean, I have high charisma. Just
yeah,
in general,
yeah.
But...
We do, but if we're not trained, like,
oh yeah, no.
Especially if you're meeting with colonies of other human settlements, they may see aliens and be like, ah.
I have -1 charisma.
You have -1.
Don't let him talk.
I'm the token white guy on a galactic scale in this game.
I have the constitution of a shrimp, so I have -2 constitution.
I got a +3 to charisma.
So
I am playing this character so against its own type. It's crazy.
You've got Dr. Bob, Brendan Fraser, Gorn, and Jackal Man fighting against God knows what.
I'm basically Spider-Man's the Lizard.
I like it.
But
is he going to speak with a lisp?
I was thinking of doing voices, but if we're doing many episodes, it's probably not a good idea. It might be something like maybe I'll make my character swear and mutter under his breath in his own language, and that might be with an accent, but he's chosen to try to speak in the common tongue.
I like it.
Looking at it, we also don't have a direct engineer. we also do not have a scientist. So we all have some abilities. So I think once we gain certain levels, it would probably make sense for either me being the medic to also dual class with a scientist later on, and maybe the scout as an engineer.
Yeah, because we're going to be needing to do R&D stuff, I think, down the road as part of the story, and also kind of just for fun, because I have a lot of ideas.
And I was going to say, and then the other two guys can Rochambeau for who wants to do some diplomatic stuff, and who wants to probably a scout and soldier class would be great, because I would assume that's probably JT's character doing a bit of the running ahead, but also being. Or if you have high charisma, you can also.
Well, I mean, I was thinking I could do a little jack of all trades here, because I've got a 16 charisma, and my two things I put like where you're selecting your skills, like your proficiencies on. I chose like performance and sleight of hand, because with being an entertainer, I mean, I can do a little bit of diplomacy. I can certainly
act as a scout. Do you just show up and do magic for the kids to make them think you're a god?
Oh my god, he's Paul Rudd in Ant-Man. He just starts randomly spitting out cards. What is the human doing?
You show up at the primitive colonies and you show them how to juggle, and you're like, he's our god now, and you're like, oh, maybe this isn't what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, where is the human? He's ascended. What? He's joined
Well,
Dr.
that
Jackson.
hasn't happened yet. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We're before that, but also you could be. You get reprimanded. You go and show up, and Hammond just goes, "This is the third time that you ended up teaching the concept of gambling to a primitive species, and they've killed their entire colony off in a war."
Yeah. Okay. I'm loving all of this. I can work with that, but like I said, I can do a little scouting, a little diplomacy. But like I said, because Carter makes things go boom. I would definitely lead him a little towards engineering as well.
Juggling grenades?
That's what I was going to say. He juggles hand grenades and makes puppets out of C4.
Stop bringing dice with you. Stop teaching colonies to play dice and telling them it's the god bones.
I'll build my own colony with hookers and blackjack.
Exactly.
Forget the hookers.
So yeah, guys, I think we've established who our team is. So like I said, the game will start on December 31st, 2003. You have all been at Phoenix Base for approximately about a week now. You've met General PK the lawyer in passing. He's only given you a courtesy hello. I'll give you a briefing later. So
Welcome
you've been
to Phoenix Base.
So you've been a lot of cooling your heels. You've met people around the base, hung out in the mess hall. You've explored the planet, which I said, just kind of oceanic, but kind of swampy at the same time. So think of very, it's not a pleasant place to hang outside, but if you want to go for a boat ride, it's fine for that. Just watch out for the giant sharks. So you haven't been through the gate since. You've all been just kind of hanging out. One of the people you're going to meet later on will be Dr. Stone. And Dr. Stone will give you your mission brief along with PK Lawyer probably the day after New Year's. So that's where our game will pick up, because right at the stroke of midnight on January 1st, 2004, every deep space telemetry telescope that the Tari have access to lights up like a Christmas tree, and nobody knows why. And that will be where we pick up things in about 2 weeks. So, with all that in mind, I welcome Tactical Weapons Integration Group. You will be formally known as Stargate SG. I'm trying to think, what's a good number for us? Alex, how many years has TWIG been around for?
Well, there are official teams up to 25.
Okay.
3 of them have never been shown. They're all question mark, but they've been referenced.
Okay.
So why don't we go SG-26?
SG-26. So that is your official designation as experimental weapons and scouting. Just in case something blows up, better it happen out there than on, a different planet. So that is what we will do in about 2 weeks' time. So the plan is, folks, each episode will be about 2 hours long. This will be part of a mini series, which may or may not conclude this year. We're kind of planning Stargate SG-1 to be fall programming. So you'll get it through the fall and the early winter. We'll play some games during the summer and spring, and then we'll come back to Stargate if we want next fall. But don't worry, you will get a full story and what is Charmunda and what is exactly happening in deep space that is making all these telescopes go off at once. We'll find out. So the plan is to release these during our Christmas holidays when the rest of the Twig team takes off after December 12th, after our holiday gift guide, but before our Christmas commentary. You should be getting these mostly on Saturdays. And we will be gathering here once again as often as we can to give you a little snippet of adventure in the Stargate universe. How many episodes is this going to run? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So until next time, folks, beginning in Kitchener, we have been...
should I go with my character's name?
Sure.
Dr. Bob.
Or Sexy Godzilla.
Sexy Godzilla. That works.
We also have from the great lands of Saskatoon.
I haven't established his rank yet, but JT from Saskatoon playing the lone human, Carter Hall.
From the wonderful world of New Jersey.
Ken Reel's playing Saul Vachmir.
And from literally beside my apartment.
Ringo, the O silent.
I love it. All right, guys. So until next time, Chevron's locked.
I'm taking this loop off. Telling you, Teal, if we don't find a way out of this soon, I'm gonna lose it. Lose it. It means go crazy. Nuts. Insane. Bonzo. No longer in possession of one's faculties. 3 fries short of a Happy Meal. Wacko!
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.